S.S.S. Shalach, Tovshin Pei Vav, and once again it is only S.S.S. Shalach for those in Chutz La'aretz, in Eretz Yisrael. You're already reading Parshas Koirach this week, but you'll get a good, as we like to say, you get a good chazara on the parsha that we are reading here in Chutz La'aretz. And the beginning of our parsha tells us about the episode of the Meraglim. And what an episode that was. Very, very something that had repercussions long into the future and even to today. And as we know, what happened with the Meraglim that were sent into Eretz Yisrael to sort of, quote, spy the land before Klal Yisrael would enter Eretz Yisrael. And as we know, things went off the rails. Things went very, very wrong with these Meraglim. And we know also, on top of all of that, something that everybody's familiar with is that Lashon Hara is always a terrible thing with terrible repercussions from speaking Lashon Hara, from listening to Lashon Hara. That we know that it's a terrible thing. But to speak negatively of Eretz Yisrael, it seems that it takes the Aveira, the Chet of Lashon Hara, to a whole other level. Because the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael is beyond anything else or any other place in the world. So if somebody, and of course every person has to be careful. You're talking about Hashem's land, Hashem's place, Hashem's backyard, so to speak, Hashem's garden, Eretz Yisrael. You say something bad about Eretz Yisrael, it's not good at all. And when Bnei Yisrael were getting ready to enter this tremendous Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, right? We all know what kind of holiness the land of Eretz Yisrael has, and now Klal Yisrael, they were sending the Meraglim, they were ready to enter this Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. So what happened was the pushback of the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, and the Koiches HaTumah was tremendous. And really, we've spoken about in the past that it works that way all over, which is called Zeh L'umas Zeh. The greater the potential for growth, the greater opportunity, the greater that the opportunity presents itself to a person to grow and to become more chashuv and to become a different person, you have an opportunity now for growth, for Kedusha. The greater the Yetzer Hara exerts effort to counter any potential growth that may come out of it. And you know, I was actually thinking that sometimes we wonder about, especially Eretz Yisrael is in the news all the time, and sometimes the news is very difficult to understand. I'm not talking about the wars and the anti-Semites and although that kind of stuff we really do understand. But I'm talking about, I don't want to get into politics, it's not my thing, I don't know anything about politics, but it seems that in Eretz Yisrael it's always one thing or the other, whether being drafted into the army, whether it's money for yeshivas and Torah and everything. And really, if you think about it, it could be exactly what we're talking about, because the potential for growth is so great in Eretz Yisrael. It's the one place in the world where a Yid can actually thrive tremendously and really reach closer to their potential. We have to remember that the challenges and the pushback of the Yetzer Hara, anything just not to have peace amongst the Yidden, just not to have people getting along, just not to have Torah totally thrive in Eretz Yisrael, and then so many of the other things which we don't have to get into right now, but it's definitely, it's a Zeh L'umas Zeh. When the potential is so great and the holiness is so great, the challenges are also that much bigger. the challenge is the pushback on the Ruchnius is that. So the Yetzer Hara pushes back much, much more. As we know, the 7 Amim, the 7 nations, came out so strongly to fight and to push back against Klal Yisrael when they're coming into Eretz Yisrael. They represented the Yetzer Hara that was pushing back really, really hard. And it's for that reason, says the Nesivos Shalom, that because the pushback and the danger was so great, it's for that reason that the men who were sent, the Meraglim who were sent into Eretz Yisrael, you needed to have tremendously great men, Roshei B'nai Yisrael, Hema. They sent the greatest of their people. Now, I would ask you, and I'm sure you would agree with me, that under normal circumstances, such great men would not be the typical choice of the type of person to be dispatched on a spying mission into Eretz Yisrael. You ask me who you send to a spy, I think of someone who's very resourceful, that knows how to sneak around, how to get whatever, someone who's schooled in all these different types of warfares and spying, and that certainly wasn't these Nisiim. These people, the Roshei, these people were the greatest of the great in Klal Yisrael. So why were these people sent into Eretz Yisrael? It's for this reason. Because the challenge and because the potential was so great, you needed men of such stature to face up to this task. And we see how it all played out, that even with all their greatness and being the greatest people in Klal Yisrael, even they could not withstand the Nisoyon that faced them when they got to Eretz Yisrael. And even though we know that Kalev and Yeshua, who did withstand the Nisoyon, they needed the tefillos of Moshe Rabbeinu. On their own, they couldn't have made it. That's how great the challenge was. Moshe Rabbeinu was mispalel for Kalev, Ko Yoshiacha, Me'atzas Meraglim, that they should be saved, that he should be saved from the advice and the Eitzah of the Meraglim. Kalev himself, we know, that was the tefillah that was said for Yeshua, and we know that Kalev famously went to the Kivrei Avos. Kalev, his first stop when he went into Eretz Yisrael, Kalev found Hebron. He went to Hebron to be mispalel, that he should not fall into the trap of Chas v'Shalom, speaking Lashon Hara, saying something negative about Eretz Yisrael. So he went to the place that he knew as the greatest place in Eretz Yisrael, the place where our ancestors and our avos and imois are buried there. Kalev had to go there. But if not for that tefillah, who knows what would have been. So that was a tremendous nisayon and challenge that they had to stand up to. And it seems that had they not had the tefillahs of Moshe Rabbeinu and the tefillahs at the Maras Machpelah in Hebron, it's very possible that they would not have been capable of standing up to this nisayon. And that is how powerful this was. However, they needed an Eitzah to counter this Yetzer Hara. How do you counter such a strong pushing from the Yetzer Hara when you want to grow in Ruchnius, when you want to do such a tremendous thing like going into Eretz Yisrael? So Nesivos Shalom tells us what the key is. Very interesting. He says that if you're a great person, you're a great person. So a great person many times will think that because of their greatness, they can accomplish whatever they need to accomplish. Says the Nesivos Shalom, the key to fighting back with the Yetzer Hara who's coming at you when you have a tremendous potential for growth is to be meshubad and batel to a Rebbe. You have to have someone that you look up to that has das Torah, siyata d'shmaya, someone that you could be the greatest, you could be an amazingly great person, but you need to have someone that you look up to, someone that you are mevatel yourself to. They had to be mevatel themselves to Moshe Rabbeinu. the tzivui of Shalach Lecha Anoshim, Rashi tells us what was L'daitcha. What does L'daitcha could mean? People that are going to follow your das. People are going to follow the hadracha of Moshe Rabbeinu. And in order to defeat that strong Yetzer Hara, they needed to be mekusher, they needed to be tied to a Rebbe, so that they're totally mevatel themselves to, that's going to have a say in every step that they take. And that was actually the koyach that set Kalev and Yeshua apart from the other Meraglim. Kalev and Yeshua were totally subordinate. They subordinated themselves to the das of, there was L'daitcha, they subordinated themselves to the das of Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's what set them apart from the other Meraglim. That's why they were able to go in with a clear vision. They were able to go into Eretz Yisrael. They were totally mevatel themselves to the das of Moshe Rabbeinu. As we know, Yeshua was the quintessential Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu. No one was closer to Moshe Rabbeinu as a Talmud than Yeshua ben Nun. And Kalev was the one that said, no matter what's going on in Eretz Yisrael, we're going to go with the das of Moshe Rabbeinu, what Moshe Rabbeinu wants us to do, and Eloi na'alev yarashnu ha'isa. Kalev was making a tremendous statement there, that no matter what, we are going to go up, and we, as Klal Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, are going to inherit, they're going to inherit Eretz Yisrael. Rashi explains, says in Nesivos Shalom, that when Kalev was saying, Eloi na'alev yarashnu ha'isa, that Kalev was saying, we're going to go up, and Hashem wants us to go. He wants to give us Eretz Yisrael. We're going to go up, and we're going to take this beautiful prize. We're going to take this beautiful gift from Hashem. Nesivos Shalom tells us, he brings from Rashi, the Rashi was saying that Kalev was saying that even if it's in Shamayim, it seems so far off, it seems so far in the distance. If it's in Shamayim, we're going to build ladders. And we're going to be matzliach. We're going to go because we know that when you're living in Eretz Yisrael, when you're moving into Eretz Yisrael, when you're being part of Eretz Yisrael, it's Hashem's place, and you're going to be matzliach. And so strong was the kesher between Yeshua ben Nun and Kalev and Moshe Rabbeinu that they went in with that attitude that, of course, everything is going to work out. And they're going to be matzliach. But the other Meraglim were great people, but they may have felt, says in the Nesivos Shalom, that they were big enough on their own to make their own decisions. Why did you pick us? You picked us because we're great. So if we're great, then we can go in, we can make our own decisions. We could decide what's good for Bnei Yisrael. We could decide whether we should go into Eretz Yisrael. We could decide what it is that is best for Klal Yisrael. This is really a lesson to every one of us, that no matter how much you think you know about something, no matter how great you think you may have become, you still have to be mevatel your das and understand we don't know everything. We don't know everything at all. We have a Rebbe. You have to tie yourself to a Rebbe. You have to be part of whether it's a shir, a chabura, a group, something where you're looking up to someone that knows more than you, someone that knows what the repercussions might be, someone who knows better than you what das Torah really is. And that's a lesson we could all take out of Parsha Shalach, that it's no matter what happens, our own opinion is not enough. When whatever happens, that we have to be machniah ourselves. We don't know everything. Many times, you ask someone, they could give you advice, they know more than you. Kalev and Yehoshua did that with Moshe Rabbeinu, and they saved the day. Yes, they were delayed 40 years. Many people were punished. But at the end, ultimately, they were able to go into Eretz Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael, we should all be zeicha to always speak good things about Eretz Yisrael, that we should all be zeicha to go to Eretz Yisrael. Amen.